Hi everybody, I'm Patrick Dockery. In my life, I have worn many hats and tasted many flavors. As I travel the world, I explore the finest cities in search for culture, history, and great food. Along the way, I get to meet today's most interesting celebrities, focusing on the positive side of life, allowing them to share their causes, charities, and what truly fascinates them. We cook and dine with some of the finest chefs of our time, preparing healthy and delicious meals in some of the hottest restaurants. Also, we showcase the latest, most creative, and hippest trends of beauty, fashion, and lifestyle. I pursue my passion for health and fitness and acquire some of the most innovative wellness strategies. And now, I want to share this all with you. So come along on this amazing journey, and together we will experience a world of health, beauty, and life. On today's show, we're heading to the heart and soul of American music, Memphis, Tennessee. We'll explore STAX Museum of Soul Music. In this small converted theater, the incredible Booker T and the MGs, Otis Redding, the Staple Singers, and Isaac Hayes first cut their now legendary recordings and launched their careers, forever changing the landscape of music in America. Then we hop on the Blues Highway and head back towards downtown Memphis to the famous Lorraine Motel. It was here on April 4th, 1968, that the inspirational civil rights leader, Dr. Martin Luther King, was shot and killed on the now infamous hotel balcony. We will explore the life and death of one of America's most influential leaders in what is now the home of the National Civil Rights Museum. But first, let's head down to Stax, Soulsville, USA. Located in Soulsville, USA, is the magnificent STAX Museum. Wow, this is impressive. How you doing?
Hi, Patrick. How you doing? So I'm the curator of collections here at the STAX Museum of American Soul Music.
Now, how did this all start out? It wasn't originally a museum.
Basically, this museum sits on the footprint of the original studio of Stax Records, whose heyday was in the 60s and 70s and largely responsible for the soul music movement. So we take you through a little bit of the history of that and beyond, you know, and we focus on Stax Records and we focus on other record labels as well.
That's exciting. Well, let's get going. Wow, this is amazing. This is like an old building. Is this a church?
Yes, this is a church. This is how we kind of start the tour, basically to frame that, you know, most of soul music, the roots of soul music, come out of blues and gospel. And so we begin where a lot of black music in America began, which is in the church. Yeah. This church itself is 105 years old. Wow. It's actually repurposed. It was from Duncan, Mississippi, and repurposed to fit into the space in the museum. So, you know, we just try to immerse the visitors in that experience to let them understand what it felt like to be a part of that, to be what it feels like to be part of that gospel movement and what it was like.
Yeah, this is amazing. Well, Levon, what's this room all about?
This room is called our Rotunda, and basically the roots of soul music are in blues, gospel, country, and this sort of broadens that out. Once you come out of the church, out of the gospel area, we're dealing with blues, we're dealing with country, we're dealing with the forefathers like Sam Cooke, James Brown, and basically what sort of, again, that got that melting pot really going to create soul music.
Actually got it boiling at one point.
Yeah, very much so. Well, this is one of our new interactive exhibits. It's the Soulsville Community Map. One big thing about Stax Records is it was located in a very black community, and through that community, a lot of people sort of trickled in and met the two founders of Stax Records, Jim Stewart and Estelle Axton, and you know, became a part of the Stax Records movement. And not only that, I mean, this entire neighborhood was just full of music the entire time it's been in existence. And so with this map, we kind of just show people, you know, and we can show you one here. Booker T. Jones, another person from the neighborhood, and we basically talk a little bit about what.
Wow.
So, you know.
Get the vibe going.
Jones was born November 12, 1944.
That's amazing.
You know, we just want to highlight the entire neighborhood.
Absolutely.
It's one thing we're definitely all about.
Some of the pictures from the neighborhood.
Yeah, basically, yes. This is a photo exhibit of many of the houses where some of the most famous artists in music were born, including Aretha Franklin and others, you know.
What's going on over here? And we just go down memory lane here.
Yeah, yep. We're dealing with some of the most important artists of the early era.
Oh, yeah.
Like Rufus Thomas, Carla Thomas, you know, these are people that would help sort of put Stax on the map.
Wow, what the heck is this? Thing's crazy, like a little disco floor over here.
Yeah, this is something I can definitely say is very unique to this museum, is that we have a dance floor in the middle so that when people come through, we're wanting them to have fun. You'd be surprised how many people love to shake a leg out here.
Right on, this is real cool.
We definitely encourage that. Well, this area here, we talk a little bit more about some of the artists that were associated with Stax Records. One of the biggest ones were Booker T and the MGs.
Oh, yeah.
This is an exhibit dedicated to them. Actually, Duck Dunn, the bassist for the Booker T and the MGs, unfortunately just passed, but you know, world-renowned bass player. So you know, and they were the house band for most of the early hits of Stax Records. So they played on a lot.
This was kind of like their home.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. It was a very familiar atmosphere for the artists at Stax Records.
Wow, Otis Redding.
Yeah, I mean, basically one of the biggest stars, if not the biggest star of the early era of Stax Records, you know. And this exhibit is dedicated to him and the Barcades, who were his backing band on the road. The first sort of group of Barcades perished, unfortunately, with Mr. Redding when he died in the famous plane crash. But they kept, some of the people that survived kept on going, started a new band, got new members, got a new, you know, even funkier attitude, and they were making hits all the way through, wow, the 80s, now that I think about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So. That's true. Wow. What began as a neighborhood record store and a dilapidated movie theater grew to become one of the world's most important music recording studios in the world.
This board was used by engineers at that time. This is before the era of multi-track recording, when people were kind of having to do mixing on the fly. So that was an art in and of itself. And so, yeah, and this is a board specifically from that era. A lot of the other artifacts that are in this are very specific to the early 60s, early to mid 60s.
Yeah, it's got that vibe. And then I know that they're looking through this glass
to Studio A.
Studio A, okay.
Studio A, the famous Studio A.
And that used to be a theater, you told me.
Yes, well, this entire place used to be a theater. And what happened is when they decided to convert it into a recording studio, they moved all the chairs out, but they decided to let the floor stay slanted. And that gave the recordings a very unique sound. And so at that time, you could be like, oh, well, that's a Stax record because that heavy bottom, that heavy bassy sound, you know?
That's cool.
So yeah.
Things happen.
And it was just an accident. No real thought went into that. It was just like, you know, we can't afford to flatten the floor, leave it slanted.
And it changed the acoustic.
Yeah.
So here's the studio, huh?
Yeah, this is a world famous Studio A. And
I noticed the slope, you're right.
Yeah.
Big time, we're going up.
Yes.
That's so cool. And then we got some really cool looking instruments around.
This is Duck Dunn's bass, it's autographed. Wow. This is Steve Cropper guitar, both were members of Booker T and the MGs, the Stax Records house band.
Oh yeah.
Right, so we really do think of this as a very hallowed space.
Yeah, it's amazing. Stick around, there's a lot more to see at the STAX Museum. Welcome back to Soulsville, USA, Stax Records. So as we come out of the recording studio, we go into the fruits of the labor in the recording studio, which are all the albums, right?
Yeah, this is our Hall of Records. This is one of my favorite areas in the museum because, you know, album cover art, it's a bit of a lost art now, you know, with iPods and everything, you don't see people putting as much time and effort into creating, you know, these sort of covers anymore. But it's
cool to see. It's real cool to see.
A fantastic display.
Wow, I haven't seen these in a long time. I used to, when I was a kid, you know, used to play them so much the grooves would wear out.
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is again continuing with that theme of showing the art. Like this is a display of all of the 45s that Stax put out. Like before they really got into the album formats, Stax was primarily, you know, a singles label where they were just putting out singles all the time. And this is almost every single one that was released on Stax or any of its subsidiaries.
Yeah, some of the kids today, they've never even seen one of these things.
Yeah, I mean, we get that. We actually get that a lot. But you know, it's nice to again teaching the history. So.
Right on.
This is called a backstage area where we kind of, you know, some of the other artists associated with Stax Records, we learn a little bit about them. Probably the biggest artist of the second era of Stax Records was Isaac Hayes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was legendary in a lot of ways, you know. He was a part of the early era as well in songwriting, but it was in the second era that he sort of emerged as an artist in his own right.
Oh, yeah.
Very unique, and I mean...
He had his style about him, too.
Oh, very much so. I mean, the theme from Shaft was the first Academy Award for an African-American composer at that time, and we're lucky to have his Academy Award here in the museum.
Right over here, the Academy Award. Amazing. And you have something real special. Oh, yeah. You have one of his rides over here.
Well, yeah, the ride.
The ride.
The ride. This is Isaac Hayes' 1972 peacock blue gold, 14-karat gold trimmed Cadillac.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. You know, the interior is also, it has shag carpeting inside, a refrigerator in the back, a TV in the front. I mean, they decked it out really, really well. This was a great catch for us as a museum.
You used to drive this around on the streets, right?
Yeah, oh, very much so. This was like an icon to the community. There are a lot of people in the community that were inspired by seeing him. You know, they've never seen an African-American drive something like this, you know, to reach that level.
Absolutely, it can be done.
It was inspiring to a lot of people. I mean, I hear that today, like, oh, my mom used to make me come down here and look at this car, you know, just to say, you can do this, you can achieve this, so.
Way to go.
Yeah.
All about the positive, man. I love it. is one of my favorites right here, Mr. Al Green, Reverend Al Green.
Yeah, yes. Al was recorded on High Records, which is another famous Memphis label, very closely related to Stax in sound, and even shared some of the same drummer from Booker T and the MGs, played all the drums on Al Green's stuff. So, you know, we're here to celebrate not just Stax Records, even though it's focused, but we also, you know, celebrate soul music and the contribution of soul music artists throughout the country over time. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, we love to be able to teach that history, to keep the story alive, you know.
Loving it. So what's this room all about?
This is sort of our rotating gallery where we, you know, focused on like specific exhibits. Right now, last year was the 40th anniversary of the Stax concert that took place in the LA Coliseum
back in the woods.
Back in 1972. So we have a large color photograph exhibit of, you know, basically that concert. It was the largest concert, 112,000 people, like mostly of African American descent. You know, it was like the largest gathering of black people at that time.
Well, Levon, we're back where we started, right in front of the Stax sign here. And it was an amazing tour, and you were great. I appreciate it.
No problem. Like I said, you know, that was just kind of some of the highlights. There's a lot more to see, and we love to have people come in and spend as much time as they like here. So. Yeah,
well, you can spend a whole day listening to music, learning. I mean, the dance area was cool.
Yep.
Bring the whole family, right?
Exactly.
All right, right. And thank you so much for being with us today. And until next time, just remember to enjoy. Coming up next, the National Civil Rights Museum. Welcome back. It's time to visit the infamous Lorraine Motel. Well, hello everybody. Today we're here at the National Civil Rights Museum in Memphis, Tennessee with our amazing tour guide, Ryan Jones. How are you today?
I'm well, and yourself?
Good to meet you.
All right.
Well, what do we have here? We're starting out, and this is the tunnel you come in, right?
Yeah, this is basically a condensed timeline of what you would have seen in the original Civil Rights Museum, which opened here in 1991. Beginning in the year 1619, 20 African slaves were brought to this country in Jamestown, Virginia, and they were sold into what we call slavery. And once they would do this, many African Americans and some white abolitionists would try and fight against the oppression of slavery. They would take some civil approaches and they would take some violent approaches. Some of the most important leaders during this time was Mr. Frederick Douglass, Miss Harriet Tubman, and the radical Nat Turner of 1831.
Well, they saw that it was wrong right from the bat, right?
Absolutely. In 1861, 13 southern states no longer wanted to be a part of what we call the United States of America. So they decided to fight a war, which was known as the American Civil War. Absolutely. And Lincoln wants to do something that no other president had done before this time. So on January the 1st, 1863, exactly 150 years ago this year, he issues the Emancipation Proclamation, which is supposed to free the slaves in this country, which in fact is not free one slave, because this was only a military document and only a constitutional amendment could completely abolish slavery. In 1954, Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP said that children should be able to go to the same schools in this country. So on Monday, May the 17th, 1954, the Brown versus Board of Education ruled that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. Picking up off of that momentum was Miss Rosa Parks actually decided not to give up a seat on an Alabama bus to a white man, and this sparked the Montgomery bus boycott, which is where we see a 26-year-old Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. first show his face in the civil rights movement. And so for 381 days, African Americans, they decide to walk, use carpool and black-owned taxis to get back and forth to their destinations. 381 days after that, the Supreme Court ruled that segregation in these buses was unconstitutional. And this was the first major accomplishment and achievement of the civil rights movement and of Dr. King as a civil rights leader. Perhaps the biggest and turning point of the civil rights movement was exactly 50 years ago in 1963. Dr. King leads a campaign in Birmingham known as Project Confrontation. And this is where you see those infamous footages of little innocent children, 4 years old to 17 years old, being attacked by police dogs and German shepherds and water hoses. And this was also where Dr. King delivers his most famous speech, the I Have a Dream speech, on August the 28th of 1963.
Well, Ryan, looks like we're in a pretty special place right here.
Yeah, we're at the real Lorraine Motel. Okay. In the 50s and 60s, many famous African-American celebrities would stay here at the Lorraine Motel, such as Sam Cooke, Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, and Ray Charles. However, the most famous celebrity was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Dr. King returned to the city of Memphis in April of 1968. He was placed in room 306, and we'll discuss those tragic events that took place on that day as we walk on the balcony and stand where Dr. King stayed.
There's two cars here.
Sure.
And what's the significance?
These are 1964 and 1967 Cadillacs and Dodges, and these cars were replicas of the actual models that were here at the time of the fatal assassination. So we kind of had these cars put here to create the effect of how it was in 1968 here at the Lorraine Motel.
Give it the vibe and the feel, huh?
Definitely.
There's a wreath here.
The wreath was put here to show exactly where Dr. King was standing on the balcony when he was hit by the assassin's bullet. So we commemorated the wreath here right exactly at this exact moment.
Wow. Well, let's go on up and check it out.
All right, let's go.
All right.
And what's really good about this is that this is the original frame. Nothing has been changed at the Lorraine Motel's frame since 1968.
So we're touching history right here.
And now we're going to room 306 here at the Lorraine Motel. This is where Dr. King was placed with Ralph Abernathy on the afternoon of Wednesday, April 3rd, 1968. On the following day, after Dr. King delivered that famous "I've been to the mountaintop" speech, Dr. King and some of his associates, such as Ralph Abernathy, Andrew Young, and the Reverend Samuel Billy Kyles of Memphis, were getting ready to go and eat dinner at Reverend Kyles' home that night. Dr. King steps outside the balcony, and he stands right here. At that exact moment, the fatal shot rings out. Dr. King is hit in the right jaw and neck area. It pierces his jugular vein and spinal cord, and it lodges in his left shoulder blade. Dr. King falls wounded right in this area that we see here on the balcony. Dr. King was taken from the balcony to St. Joseph's Hospital, where he was later pronounced dead at 7:05 p.m. And riots and violence erupted throughout the entire United States of America in the wake and aftermath of Dr. King's assassination.
Wow, and it's all coming back now. That's nice. They're revamping everything here. And you know, the thing that I've noticed too is that you guys are constantly upgrading this museum. Yes,
definitely. As of November of 2012, the National Civil Rights Museum is undergoing a major extensive renovation campaign, which is what we're going to do is that we're just going to update the technology, more digital interaction. We're going to have many more stories told about the civil rights struggle that goes a lot more in depth than Dr. King, Rosa Parks, Frederick Douglass. And we're just going to give a place for children and the youth and all people, tourists all over the world. You can come here and learn about this dark history of American history.
Something we got to remember.
Absolutely. In order to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been.
Wow, amazing. Don't go anywhere. We've got lots more of the National Civil Rights Museum. We're back. It's time to march on at the National Civil Rights Museum.
First, we're going to go into who murdered Dr. King. And one of the first sides is James Earl Ray was the lone gunman. James Earl Ray was an escaped convict from the Missouri State Penitentiary. He purchases this 1965 Mustang for $1,900. So he goes in that Mustang and he drives from Atlanta to Birmingham. When he's in Birmingham, he buys 2 rifles. The first rifle, he takes it back saying that it was the wrong size. Whatever happens to that rifle, we have no idea to this day. He takes a second rifle and he brings that rifle from Birmingham into Memphis and he checks in the Younger Morrow rooming house on the day of the assassination.
And is this the actual hotel?
This is the actual Younger Morrow rooming house, boarding house. And what we're about to go and look at now is the room that James Earl Ray allegedly stayed in and the bathroom that he allegedly fired the fatal shot from under the alias of John Willard.
This is amazing.
This is the actual room of room 5B from the Younger Morrow rooming house. It's said that James Earl Ray, under the alias of John Willard, checks into this room so that he could be very close to see where Dr. King was going to be so that he could try and maybe get a fatal shot. So Ray is said to have left this bedroom and take that second rifle that he purchased in Alabama, and he comes into this bathroom and he purchased himself into this bathtub. And this
literally in the bathtub, and this is the actual window.
This is the actual window where the FBI said the fatal shot was fired that murdered Martin Luther King Jr.
So as we look through, we can see the balcony, and that's exactly where the bathtub, right on the other side of that wall. And as you look through, we can see it's pretty much a straight shot.
Pretty much. So after this happens, Dr. King is mortally wounded on the balcony. Ray leaves the bathroom, and he leaves that Mustang in Atlanta, gets on a plane, and flies from Atlanta to Toronto, from Toronto to London, from London to Portugal, and Portugal back to London before he's finally captured 65 days after the assassination of Dr. King.
Kind of crazy.
He's thinking he's going to get a light sentence. In return, he pleads guilty and he receives 99 years in the state penitentiary, which is where he dies at the year of 1998 with liver cancer.
Wow. Well, so this is the evidence, and this is what you wanted to show us. So what do we have here?
Yeah, this is the actual evidence case, state's evidence case against James Earl Ray. The highlight is the actual 760 Gangmaster 30-06 rifle that was found with James Earl Ray's fingerprints
the actual
on it. The actual weapon, right. Well, this weapon was finally tested in 1994 when it came out that Dr. King could have been killed as a result of a conspiracy. And number 5 here is the actual shell casing, and number 11 is the actual bullet pulled out of Dr. King's left back shoulder blade.
That's the actual, literally
actual bullet.
And that is the actual bullet, right in this case.
In this case.
That's amazing.
It was preserved all this time, and it does not match the rifle that was recovered at the assassination. So many conspiracy theorists suggest that maybe this weapon was to frame James Earl Ray, who openly admitted to buying 2 weapons right before he came to Memphis, Tennessee.
So this brings us to the end of our tour. I mean, there's so much more here than what we've seen, but this is kind of the future, right?
Right. This room goes into the shift from civil rights to human rights. It talks about women's rights, all different rights for all different people outside of the race movement from 1970s all the way to present day 2013. Yeah, this is the dream that Dr. King was talking about. All these people are having the right to vote, having the right to an education, and being able to exercise their constitutional rights that our forefathers gave in 1776.
That's right. Inalienable rights for all men, right?
All men.
If we don't remember the past, and that's what this is all about, we can't have a bright future, can we?
Right. In order to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today. And until next time, just remember to enjoy. Okay, welcome back. Thanks to LaVon Williams for opening the doors at the legendary STAX Museum and for taking us on a journey through the history of soul music. And to Ryan Jones from the National Civil Rights Museum for giving us a glimpse into one of the darkest days in American history and how through the life and death of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., America is and will continue to become a better place for all. Until next time, just remember to enjoy.